Though the 1964-1965 fair is best remembered today for its iconic unisphere, it also marked the first and only time that the Pietà was allowed to leave St. Peter's Basilica. And this singular moment helped make the Vatican pavilion the second most visited pavilion at the fair after General Motors. The awe and reverence surrounding the sculpture impressed upon my young mind the weight of the moment. Michelangelo's depiction of Mary's sorrow and pain at the death of her son has resonated through the centuries as the universal expression of a mother's deep suffering love for her child. Only in retrospect do I now understand the magnitude of what it meant to transport the Pietà to America. It would be comparable to shipping, for example, the Statue of Liberty to Rome. But if that were ever to happen, the outcry would come from Americans themselves. In the case of shipping the Pietà, protests came from both sides of the Atlantic. The move was a gamble for sure, but in retrospect, the exposure to this masterpiece led me, in a way, back to academia to study art history. My very first class was Italian Renaissance sculpture. For all of Robert Moses's bluster, the fair really was a summer university. Ever since the opening of the first World's Fair with London's Crystal Palace in 1851, education has always been a feature, albeit a lesser one, of these expositions. More often, World's Fairs have been venues for the latest displays of industry and technology. As President William McKinley presciently remarked in 1901, expositions are the timekeepers of progress, and seldom was this more apt than at Flushing, Queens, with IBM's introduction of the computer ushering in the new digital era. Increasingly, scholars are investigating World's Fairs for their broader significance as diversions from national and global issues, resulting in a more clinical and even jaundiced analysis. In the case of the 1964-1965 fair, this scrutiny has relied too heavily on the negative coverage by the New York Times. I had to ask myself, did we visit the same fair? Although I, too, was disappointed to learn that the fair was a means to an end, and that was to finance the completion of the Flushing Meadows Corona Park. How could all that wonderfulness have been accidental?